What's up, my nissels? It's me, the B Jizzle from NWA TNA, and you're listening to the interactive interview. And if you ain't down, clown, I got 2 words for you. Ooh, that's copyright infringement.
Interactive Wrestling Radio. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Interactive Wrestling Radio here on the Higher Learning Institute for Professional Wrestling. It is I, your Grandmaster of Ceremonies, James Walsh, joined as always by Mr. Patrick Kelly.
You're just obsessed with that voice, aren't you?
I discovered that I could do a vague reference to Rush Limbaugh, and for some reason I enjoy it way too much, so I figured, what the hell, I'll do the intro that way.
It's funny, whatever it is.
All right, well, it's James Walsh, joined as always by Mr. Patrick Kelly.
Yep.
And Mr. Nick Noel.
First time that's when you used to do the Elmo voice.
Elmo! Yeah!
Yeah, you know what worries me is increasingly James seems to be reminding me of Dave Cholier from Full House.
I used to be able to do Popeye, and the Popeye actually sounded much more like Dave Coulier's impersonation of Popeye than the actual Popeye, so I can see that. However, if I was a character from Full House, I'd be more closely related to Uncle Jesse because my kids' names are Nicky and Alex.
And just that's for the form of music that has not been relevant socially in many years.
Well, let's talk here. Real quick before we get started on the show, our last week's interview was Lady Tapa, and I got to be honest, when we did that show, I did not think she would A, be the one who they would be reviewing, and B, obviously, if I didn't think she'd be the one to be reviewing, I didn't think she'd get the contract. But she did, and she's announced today that she's going to be performing at the Knockouts TV pay-per-view taping, the one-night-only taping, the Knockouts All Knockouts show, and at the World X Cup, or World Cup of Wrestling, or whatever they're calling it, as the other show. So good for her. I'm glad she got the contract, and I'm glad she's going to be appearing more often on TNA Wrestling.
I'm a little surprised by that, too, because it just felt like that Ivelisse was the one that they were going to run with. It just felt that way, the way they presented it on TV.
Well, she got the win, and you know, the logic dictates the one who gets the win is going to be the one that they're going to be most interested in. Plus, you know, let's be honest, if we had to pick, you know, it's closing time at the bar, who are we going to take home, and it's going to be Ivelisse. So that's, you know, that's...
Well, no wrong with them big girls.
No, they'd beat you up.
Okay.
Oh, exactly. That's why they're great. Gotta love it rough.
Holy hell, have we got off track in a hurry. Okay, tell you what. Both of you go get a drink of water because you're both hacking up lungs on the interview, on the line here. Seriously.
I think I might have bronchitis, but I'm too stubborn to go to the doctor. So I'm just trying to get rid of it.
All right. Well, let's talk. We talked about TNA. We talked about Lady Tapa. Congratulations to her. I congratulate her for earning a contract with TNA, and my advice would be listen to the trainers because you're going to an A-class facility with an OVW, and they have turned out a lot of great, talented stars, and you're only going to get better by working with them and listening to what they want. But now let's turn to the big story out of TNA. And ladies and gentlemen, I officially have to admit something. I was wrong. Many, many years ago, I said there is no way in hell that when Team 3D ends, Bully Ray will last more than 6 months in TNA. Not only has the man completely reinvented his career, reinvented his body, become one of the premier guys in the company, he is now the World Heavyweight Champion and undisputedly the top heel in the whole company. And you know what? I'm glad I was wrong because, wow, I think James said it best. You couldn't really imagine TNA right now without Bully Ray on it.
Right, and that was about, what was it, not even a year ago, he was having a contract dispute with the company, and I said on this show, and I remember I was standing in the pantry when I said it, I said they have to rehire him or they have to sign him and give him whatever he wants because right now he's one of the best characters, and this was back, I think he was doing the feud with Joseph Park at the time. So this is, goes back a ways, and this Aces and Ends angle has proven to be phenomenal. I love almost everything about it, and I love the fact that he's not being shy about referencing the NWO either. That kind of flew under the radar to the internet wrestling community, but
right.
he took a shot at the NWO saying, we did it better than you guys ever could. So, I mean, there really is just it feels real, it feels legitimate, there is a intensity to it, and God, first of all, the Lockdown crowd was phenomenal, and the crowd at the Impact taping was even better. So they just, oh man. First of all, them doing fewer pay-per-views paid off huge for Lockdown because it felt so much more special, and them being on the road paid off so much special immediately after because the Impact after Bound for Glory was horrible because the crowd sucked in comparison, but the crowd was awesome after Lockdown. So that was just it was a 1-2 punch of right decisions paying off.
And, right, and I'll say
centered around the right guy in Bully Ray to do this big angle with this big turn, which I think we all saw coming. We all knew at some point that Bully Ray was going to be revealed as, if not the leader of the Aces and Eights, obviously a major player within it. And but it came off amazingly well at the end of the show. And then to start off the show with them attacking Chavo and Hernandez, and then having Bully cut that amazing promo. I mean, it really was a nice bookend to the whole thing, and really, I thought it came off exceptionally well.
Right, and you know what? We did call it. We called it back during the Bound for Glory series on this show. We all predicted that, what they're probably going to do is Bully will win the Bound for Glory series, the Aces and Eights will help him, he'll win they'll go on and he'll do with Aries. It wasn't the way we thought it was going to happen. We did call it, and to be perfectly honest, if you didn't know Bully was going to turn heel going into the show, you had to know after that middle of the show promo with Hogan, where Hogan was like, Andre told me, brother, make sure they always remember you. You're my family, and I love you.
And I love that he's using that, too. I love that he's saying, do you remember me now? Kind of like a big, I almost vision him when he's screaming in his face like Sam Kinison in the movie Back to School. If anybody remembers this, he was screaming in Rodney Dangerfield's face, and I don't know why, but Bully just being a complete, flat-out bully, borderline, almost psychotically screaming at him, are you going to remember me now, Dad? And after he does these things, I mean, it's fantastic, and it just is. You know what? All of them are revealed now. There's no secrets left, so a part of it is over. But now they've got a real gang war that they can go with, and they did the right thing, letting Aces and Eights stay strong and not having them get beat down on the show because they have so much momentum that it would just crush so much of it if they got run off right away.
Well, absolutely. That's one of the biggest problems we see in wrestling on most levels. How many times have we bitched about the WWE and Super Cena, where, a heel can't build heat? You're absolutely right, James. On Sunday, you had this huge moment where the Aces and Eights win the war, or at least won the war on that night, where, maybe they lost at least the Lockdown, but they won the World Heavyweight title. They have the centerpiece. They humiliated the general manager. And then if they would have come out on Thursday, the show ends with TNA running them off, major damage would have been done. But, last night we saw, hey, TNA tried to run them off, and they failed. It's everything's gone wrong. I mean, it's, go to any really good movie or comic book storyline that takes, that does like that big, oh my God, how are the heroes going to come back from it? you have to have moments where the bad guys win, because it's only going to make it that much sweeter when the good guy finally gets one up on him.
Absolutely.
Well, to throw WWE a bone, probably the one thing I'll give them with the Shield, where I'm convinced that the Shield has no direction and they don't know where they're going with it, and they're just making it up as they go. But one thing that they've done really, really well is that they're undefeated. They have not lost at all, and they've been kept looking strong, and it looks like nobody, not Cena, not Ryback, nobody has been able to take them down. And that's why, even though I feel storyline-wise they don't have much of a direction with them, they have become one of the hottest acts in the company, because you're just waiting for them. I was like, all right, who is going to be able to stand up and take these guys down? And, I'm already thinking, as far as the Aces and Eights go, I'm already thinking in my head where this is going to go. I'm thinking Hogan Sting 97, where instead of Hogan and Sting, it's Bully Ray and AJ Styles.
Right. Now, the interesting thing will be, though, how you did just turn AJ heel last night, so we'll see how that all plays out.
I think he's still like, you don't know where he's going to fall. It's kind of like what Sting was.
He beat up the bad guy and the good guy, so really he didn't. He beat up everybody, so it's kind of like, it's kind of like when Sting DDT'd, what was it, Jeff Jarrett?
He didn't DDT Jeff Jarrett. He
Scorpion Death Drop.
Yeah, and he also did it to Rick Steiner. Yeah,
with Steiner, and then he did the weird thing with the bat with Luger, and I got to be honest, I probably watched that stuff 1,000 times because it was just golden. And to show you how good Lockdown was, I went back and watched it 3 separate times, the ending of that pay-per-view. And I don't do that anymore. I haven't done that in a long time. So it was just they got it. Oh, that was good.
Right, I mean, I'll be honest.
You seem sexually gratified by it.
Yeah, I'd be like, get me a cigarette.
Well, you know what? We talked about this a little bit. Far too often, there has not been a really great bad guy wins at the end of the big pay-per-view moment in a long, long time. And it felt good and almost refreshing to see it. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Bully Ray embraces being a heel, and he understands being a heel is not being the tough guy. Being the heel is not being the cool guy. Being the heel is the guy that everyone wants to fucking kill. That's why he was taunting everyone. That's why in his promo afterwards, which, what a great promo when he just goes, he says, Hogan, I used you. Brooke, I screwed you. And I fooled each and every one of you looking at the audience. That was a great promo. You want to kind of go to heel promo. Study that promo, ladies and gentlemen.
And, also nice effect with the fans throwing garbage in the ring. That always makes for a great visual whenever you see something like that.
Right. Well, and apparently on a Thursday, some fans took a shot at him. TNA, I mean, they're, coming out of these last 2 shows, I mean, they're on a bit of a roll right now. And again, James already referenced this, but them being on the road for Impact is so much better. And the show goes off so much bigger just by not being in front of that, in that sound studio, in front of the same 900 people that they were in front of the week before. Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's always an energy that goes into the shows when they are on the road, which they've done, even London and different things. It feels different. It's I'm going to be so glad to see that now on a weekly basis. I really, really think this is just going to be a positive in the way the show has been presented. And as I was watching that last night, it was a pretty good-sized arena. I thought, again, how far has this company come since the day they were running a show, in a fairgrounds in Nashville, that very first show in Alabama?
Oh, yeah. And exactly. This was a big step that they needed to make, and so far so good. I'm hearing that the advanced ticket sales for other tapings are actually going really well.
Right. Well,
can anybody confirm that, or?
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Ultimately, we'll see when we see the arena on show night.
Okay, because I'm hearing other things about ticket sales, which is obviously a really good sign as well.
Well, let's be honest, Patrick. 99.9% of the time when the internet reports anything TNA related, it's the locker room's unhappy. It's the show, there was this, there was that. It's like, so you know what? If they're reporting good things about TNA, I got to believe that they're either A, trying to set them up for a big fall, or B, it might actually be accurate.
Okay. All right.
By the way, ladies and gentlemen, if I had $1 for every time I've heard that the TNA locker room's morale is crashed and cannot go any lower, I could buy TNA from the Carters.
It'd be up
Oh,
there
yeah.
with
Well, I mean, there was a point where that was like a weekly headline. The TNA roster morale is really, really low. And that's, you know.
That and that Kenny Dykstra's favorite baseball player was Lenny Dykstra, and that's why he chose the name.
Where the hell is he now?
He's writing children's books, apparently.
He's a weird dude. I spoke to him on the phone. He's a weird dude. I talked to him on the phone, and this is the truth. I spoke to him on the phone, and I said, I'd like to do an interview. And he's like, yeah, let's do an interview. And then he says, where do you live? And I said, Arizona. He's like, wow, a lot of mountains there. Yeah. So I'll follow up to that, because it's kind of like, what? All right.
Well, supposedly, wasn't he engaged to Mickie James?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Incidentally, she looked phenomenal. I'm not talking about her wrestling. Physically, she looked a lot better than she has in a while last night.
Well, she's just hot, man. Although I do hear she's nuts, so.
Well, most of them are. So.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. Magnus is a lucky man.
That son of a bitch. Yeah, he looks like Hugh Jackman, and he's Mickie James. That's not fair.
Yeah,
that's just not fair.
And by the way, apparently he's a fairly big star in the UK. Like, he goes home to the UK, and he can pretty much just pick and choose what he wants to do in terms of any project. He did like a play over Christmas. He's hosting television shows over there.
Based on his TNA fame? Because that's kind of like an oxymoron in the U.S.
Well, a lot of it probably also has to do with his role in the UK Gladiators.
Yeah, that's probably it. Because apparently he was I have seen clips of him doing UK Gladiators, and yeah, you can see you can see definitely that the promo skills have always been there for this guy.
As opposed to Matt Morgan, who did American Gladiators and sucked then just as much as he sucks now.
Oh, James, to be fair, everyone sucked on that remake of American Gladiators.
Incidentally, by the way, is he not lost in the shuffle so badly?
No, you know what? I think they have a direction for him.
What's the direction? He's feuding with Hogan when the Aces and Eights are feuding with Hogan, but he's not a member of Aces and Eights?
I think they're going to slowly, and I think you saw it on Impact this week when he beat up Joseph Park. I think they're going to start like having him, actually be a giant and actually kill people. Whether or not it's too late to actually do that with him, I don't know.
It is.
Yeah, well, James, once again, who is under the belief that you can't be a main eventer in this business, you should retire.
No, he's horrible. He just doesn't have it.
He's not. Oh my God, he's not horrible. The guy who defends John Cena calling somebody else horrible.
What?
You're the guy that has defended John Cena as not being that bad. You're going to call this guy that actually can wrestle, actually does have a decent look, actually does.
Well, I think there's a lot of positives. It's just the way creative handles it. Like, I truthfully think Cena could be really good but it's just they present him in the way that Vince McMahon wants him presented, and
the shit sailed on John Cena being good a long time ago.
It was the same. So did it with Morgan. I mean, he got his chance in WWE. He did a stuttering gimmick.
Well, Dave, who the fuck could have made a stuttering gimmick work?
Dusty Rhodes.
Well, yeah, to be fair though, Morgan wasn't booking himself as world champion.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, look, this is going to piss people off. Dusty booked himself as world champion. He had a lot of sway. And on an unrelated note, thank fuck's sake that Goldust is not going to be at Mania.
Yeah, I would have rather seen that, actually, than...
Why?
My choice.
Truthfully, I would have rather seen Sandow and Cody versus Goldust and Booker than I would have them versus Curtis Clay.
Yeah. I'll go with
that out there.
Yeah.
No, you know what? As bad as the Bella Twins are, as bad as Tensai and Clay are, at least they can fucking show up week to week. Goldust will probably blow off Mania to go do some blow. Look, I'm sorry, read his book. Read his book. It's a poor me. My daddy was gone all the time. I had to turn to drugs and alcohol. My wife got sick of me and left me. Fucking pathetic individual. Just like Scott Hall. Just like Jake Roberts. Just like Billy Graham. Just like Tammy Sitch.
Well, Tammy Sitch is of all of them.
I don't feel bad for these people anymore.
It's hard to feel bad for Tammy. I mean, somebody said to me the other day, well, why doesn't, she's good friends with Dawn and Francine and all these other people who live near her in New Jersey. Why don't they bail her out? And I'm thinking, A, it's like $100,000 bail, and B, if they bailed her out, she's going to get arrested again in 2 days because that's what's been going on. So I wouldn't bail her out either.
And see, isn't she not
they have families. Just saying.
What? I thought Tammy hated most of those women.
No, she gets along with those women. They hate each other, but they get along with each other. I mean, the only one that Tammy never got along with was Sable.
Or Sable.
Yeah, that's the only one that she didn't get along with. Because Sable was the only one who really took her spot. But
plus Sable was also, I mean, most people within the industry or that were around at that time will tell you that Sable was kind of a snot. So.
Well, also to be fair though, Sable at least showed up to shows.
She did.
I mean, look, there isn't a whole lot I can say positively about Sable. Except for A, she upgraded in the husband department, and B, she was reliable. She was more reliable than the drug addict.
And C, people done shit in her food.
They might have. I know Sable got rid. Apparently, yeah.
In Germany, one of the Clique members shit in Sonny's food.
I know about that.
Yeah.
Isn't that like the incident where Candido kind of rightfully so, since it was his girlfriend, flipped out, and that kind of led to Sean and Hunter and various other people going and making sure that the Bygones lost the tag belts and they booked Sonny to leave him?
Probably. I mean, let's be honest. She went off and she went off with Shawn Michaels, and she did date him. I mean, she admits as much. So.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I would like to. Is it true, or is this just one of those interesting stories? Is it true that at a convention there's a video of Tammy going up to Bret Hart saying "I fucked you" or something?
If it was true, I would have seen it. Both of them always refuse to say that it's true, but I don't know. I mean, back then I would have done it. So I mean, she was red hot back then. So I mean, Christ, I mean, Bret's just a man.
I watched WrestleMania 14 a couple weeks ago actually, and she came out with LOD, and that outfit she wore with LOD was like, holy crap, that thing was amazing.
Oh, yeah, that was towards the end of her run too. I mean, that was not her at her.
That was the last. That was kind of the last gasp out of them using Sonny in any way. I mean, I can't remember her doing anything with LOD really after that WrestleMania. I think she might have shown up on Raw the next night, maybe the next week, but then after that, she was pretty much gone.
The next, it was weird with LOD 2000. They never really got them on track to really do that much. And I think Sonny was there for at least another 3 months, maybe, and then she just disappeared. So.
Yeah. Well, she was in ECW. She was even when she was on WWE TV, she was moonlighting ECW.
Mm-hmm.
So she was doing both shows. But Paul Heyman was buying the airfare for his talent on her credit card. That's the truth. she had the money at that time to pay for it. So, but that's the truth.
Yeah, which, by the way, I'm sure Shane Douglas is going to try replicating that stunt.
You should probably get her credit card pretty easy, considering she's in jail.
Not. Yeah, but I don't mean to, I really don't mean to come off as such a dick as I do in most of these shows, but I've kind of reached my no bullshit limit with a lot of these things. You know, I said this a few weeks ago, and I absolutely mean, we need a whole other section on our website for And This Again news. Tammy's in jail, Billy Graham wants out of the Hall of Fame, Scott Hall's back in rehab, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, I mean, apparently DDP's kind of taken a hands-on approach to trying to get Hall in line. And you know what? He's the latest of a lot of people.
If you donate money to it, which, no disrespect to Diamond Dallas Page, but people, the economy is really turning around. Save your money for things you might actually need. Don't give it to the broken down old wrestler that's going to fuck up again. And people don't want to say, how do I know he'll fuck up again? It's Scott Hall. He drinks on every day that ends with Y.
That's like saying that Rey Mysterio will never miss 6 months of action because of a knee injury again. But of course he will.
You know what? I'm just going to say that I think we're not, now kind of getting back to a serious discussion, I think we've seen the last of Rey Mysterio. I actually think they might bring him back for one more kind of one-off and try to do something like they do with Taker, but I think we're done. I think Rey's, you know, the card's finally been punched completely.
Why? What'd they do? What happened?
Too. I mean, especially since they're running with Del Rio as hard as they are as the big Mexican champion. That's like, well not good for Rey.
Well, James, apparently his knee shot again. I mean, apparently at this point this is part of the reason why he's been kind of on TV, off TV, on TV, off TV, on TV, off TV for the last few months, because his knee's shot again. I think, and apparently it might be at the point where it doesn't matter what surgery you do, there's nothing left to repair. People don't understand that surgery in a lot of these situations is not a fix-all. Because what you're really doing is you're cutting, you know, pasting, trying to repair and build off of and take from other parts of your body in some cases. And eventually, you know what? There's nothing more that can be done. Eventually, it's like, you know, there's nothing we can do anymore. Surgery's done as much as it possibly can. And this is a guy who, if he can't really move in the ring as well as he used to, well, there goes 90% of his moveset, and this is a guy, you know what, that James once said very accurately, got hurt every other week back in the mid-90s when he was young and able to recuperate quickly. Now he's a very beat-up veteran, to say, you know, the least.
Yeah.
I'm not
going to WrestleMania again. You know, it's amazing how many WrestleManias he's missed in the last few years due to, you know, it's the same injuries. It's always his leg.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's because I think part of it is the lucha libre style that Rey predominantly worked, especially early on in his career. You know, for people to say, you know, high flying, there is a difference between lucha libre and high flying American wrestling. But the style, it's going to tear up your legs because you're jumping in, you're, you know, rolling and you're doing all kinds of stuff. And when you start suffering the same injuries very early on in your career, it's going to affect you as you get older. That's part of the reason why when a player, you know, in the NBA suffers a severe leg injury, you're watching it the rest of his career. Look at Greg Oden as an example. And I know it's apples to oranges, but you know what? The human body can only repair itself so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But, yeah, how did we end up on this?
I think it was I wanted to get away from me just bashing everybody that's ever had a problem in professional wrestling.
Yeah, it's a weird chain of events and causality there that led to this point. But Is there any more we need to say about Lockdown or Impact, aside from the fact that both shows were really, really good?
You know what? I'll say this. Just stay the course. If I'm TNA, my advice to TNA would be stay the course, take advantage of your new pay-per-view schedule, figure out who you want to be that next big challenger to Bully Ray, set that up. You got plenty of time before Slammiversary, and pick out the Bound for Glory Series winner now, and get ready to run and go off to the races. And be ready, because I really, really do think you got great potential here with Bully Ray, and it's something that we don't see that often. To be a potentially dominant, I hate you so much, heel champion, which you just don't see in wrestling anymore.
No, and Bully Ray's great in the role, and at the very least they can get him to Bound for Glory, no question in my mind. But good for TNA. They're doing really well here.
Yep. And you got anything you want to say in addition to that, Patrick?
I got one thing I want to say.
No one says yes.
I'm going to call it a day here, guys, in a sec. But like I said, the biggest part of it that was special to me was that it was the first one of the not a pay-per-view for a few months run of TNA, and it came off fantastically. And then followed that up immediately with the first Impact on the road, and that came off fantastically. I mean, we'll have to see how it goes with the tape shows and all that, but it was a 1-2 punch of right decisions. It led to two really good shows that I've got to be honest, like I said, I haven't gone back and watched a wrestling show again in forever. I used to do it a lot with the with ECW, not to mention that name around Nick, and with WCW. I used to go back a lot and just rewatch the shows or rewatch the key points of the shows and be like, wow, how did they pull that off? That came out amazing. That was so great. And I haven't done that in just such a long time that these two came off so well that I did go back and watch it. I mean, I just love the crowd reactions. I can't get enough of the real legitimate heat that they're getting, and it's just phenomenal to see. And last thing is Austin Aries. He was a star in that Chicago crowd. I mean, that crowd loved him, even though he was facing Sting, and Sting was still the babyface. That crowd still loved him. So, if he keeps getting that kind of reaction outside of Orlando, they're going to have no choice but to push him back up the card.
Yeah.
Well, I do think the reason that he's in a tag team right now is that they want to kind of keep him and Rude in a position where they look good, but they also know, you know what, we kind of ran them into the ground in terms of world title matches because Rude was in there for a year more or less as the top heel. Aries, had a good, decent run. I mean, he worked with a lot of guys, so you gotta circle guys out of that main event picture to also give other guys the opportunity. Let's be honest, if they were still trying to put Bob Roode as the top heel, we probably wouldn't have Bully Ray as the top heel right now.
Okay, I'll pick. I guess James left. I was waiting for him to rebuttal, but okay. But yeah, that's very good week for TNA. They seem to be heading in the right direction now that they're taking their product on the road, and hopefully Impact continues to get bigger and better from this point forward. But Nick, you wanted to say some things about the WWE this week in regards to how they're building up WrestleMania. What are your comments regarding the plan for WrestleMania so far?
All right, now, ladies and gentlemen, we already know what the top matches are going to be in WrestleMania, and I don't think, if you follow the show for any length of time, I'm not going to be in favor of it, or you know how I think it should go. Punk should be Taker. I know that's not going to happen. I want the lights to fall on top of Rock and Cena and crush them both, but that never happens no matter how many pins I stick in voodoo dolls. But the rest of the card is Triple H and Brock Lesnar suck, by the way. But the rest of the card is very up in the air. A lot of that has to do with the fact that apparently, according to reports, so take it with a grain of salt, that they have no idea what they want to do because Vince McMahon keeps changing his mind. And you know why?
Which completely destroys the myth, in my opinion. They always used to say that Vince would book from WrestleMania to WrestleMania. This year completely destroys that. It's like, nope, he doesn't do that. And it shows.
Yeah, definitely. maybe, you know what, maybe he books main events year to year. But I'm willing to bet that even going back to the glory days, he didn't book WrestleMania year to year because it's impossible that every single year you would have the card planned out perfectly because things are always changing in any type of business. But that's a completely different point. But I think a big part of the reason that they can't figure out what to do this year for the mid-card is there is no mid-card anymore. We really just have jobbers to the stars and jobbers to the stars. Think about it.
Well, I have the card pulled up right here. I have the card pulled up, and I'm looking up and down this card, and this is just the rumored card. And to be honest, it keeps changing every week because you can't figure out what they're going to do. You can't even outthink them because it just feels like they're not really thinking. But the only two matches on this card that I feel like they planned months in advance were Rock and Cena and Triple H and Brock Lesnar, and those matches, you know, both of them involve part-timers. So it's like, yeah, you know, limited schedules. They only work 3 to 5 matches a year. Yeah, it's really easy to map out their Mania matches if you do that. But other than that, I mean, this just feels like a thrown-together mess.
Exactly. You know, and it is a thrown-together mess.
And even Punk and Undertaker, if that match was the plan a year ago, nothing that happened on TV indicates that. It's just something, it feels like, oh, well, we want to use Punk because we like him. We need something big for him. And, oh, wait, Undertaker needs to work with somebody. Here you go.
Yeah. And, yeah, that pretty much sums it up. I mean, the only indication that Punk was going to face Undertaker was, oh, he won a match in which the winner got to face Undertaker. If they wanted to do that, you know what? You start having him mentioned, make little veiled references to how he's the real Phenom, how it's his yard, things that Taker has said in the past. Instead, it was just, oh yeah, everyone wanted to challenge Undertaker one week and Punk won a 4-way. Which from a logistical standpoint, what happens if Undertaker comes out and says, I want to face Triple H again? I know that was never the plan, but in the story, what if Undertaker said no? He just, apparently Vicky Guerrero controls the Undertaker now. Because he'll do what she said.
Yes, I don't know.
Yeah, which completely off topic. Why the fuck is Brad Maddox still on TV?
I don't know. Like, there's another thing. It looked like, okay, the evil referee thing. Do they have a plan for this? Are they going to do anything? Or is Ryback going to chase him for 3 months and try to get his hands on him? What are they going to do with this? They did nothing with it. And it's like, oh, you just cooked that up the day of the show, didn't you?
Yeah. And, yeah, well, anyway, trying to get back to my point. There is no mid-card in the WWE. Look at a great example is Antonio Cesaro. He's been the United States champion now for a number of months, but most of the time he's jobbing to guys like Orton or Del Rio or the main eventers. And yeah, they might throw him to some guy who's going to work with for a few months and a few weeks and beat, but there isn't a hot feud. There's nothing to what should be the mid-card. There's nothing with teeth in it. Nothing that you really want to get excited about. And think about it, you know, when you look at the really good WrestleMania cards, there were stories all throughout there. WrestleMania 3, going into that, you know, pay-per-view, you had Roddy Piper versus Adrian Adonis, which was a feud they built up pretty well. You had the Bulldogs teaming with Tito against Danny Daniels or Danny Davis and the Hart Foundation. The Hart Foundation, which made sense because Davis had cost the Bulldogs the titles. And they lost to the Hearts. You have had Savage versus Steamboat, which has been built up brilliantly with Savage dropping the ring bell into Steamboat's throat and injuring him severely. And of course, you had Hogan Andre.
Yeah,
those guys all those stories were allowed to build. And look at even like Warner. Even though Austin stunned everyone, they made sure they didn't kill the guys that were going to work on the mid-card. That you have to give people a reason to care. And every time you just send one of the quote-unquote mid-card champions or one of the top challengers and just have them lose to one of the main eventers, you're telling people that because this guy isn't good enough to be a main eventer. He's not one of the guys you should care about. I mean,
and they even referenced it on Raw this week. Miz said it's like, oh, Wade Barrett, when was the last time you won a match? And I'm just sitting there thinking, how is the Intercontinental Champion on a losing streak? How does that happen?
Because it's WWE. I mean, Barrett, here's the thing. Barrett is a two-time Intercontinental Champion. I can barely remember him holding the title the first time. And what has he really done with the title since winning it back?
Nothing, really, no.
He had a feud with Sheamus because Sheamus mocked him for not having any lines in a movie.
Well, that got dropped, too. And, again, I thought, okay, so is Sheamus versus Barrett going to be the Mania match? No, they dropped that. So, like, all right, what's going on? I don't know. I'm confused.
And that's just it. You know, and yeah, look, main eventers are going to sell the majority of your shows, but you have to fill the shows. And it's not enough to just randomly throw guys out there. I mean, we have a 3-hour Raw, we have 2 hours of SmackDown, we have main event, we have Saturday Morning Slam, we have Superstars that apparently still airs internationally and on the internet. We should have feuds featuring those talents. I mean, look, I'm not asking for the greatest feud ever. I'm not asking for a long, drawn-out story that takes a year and a half, and, you know, is personal and bitter and all this stuff. Let's just do something simple. Let's build a card, which, that's just it, every Mania. I mean, are you really going to tell me you're willing to order Mania and sit through 3 hours, 3 hours or so of filler just to get to those main events? Maybe some people are, but I think those are more diehard fans. Most people are, especially the casual fans, are probably going to say, yeah, I'll save my money for something else, or I'll stream it.
Yeah, it's, I mean, again, I'm looking at this card here, and this is the big one that really confused me. They brought Chris Jericho back at the Royal Rumble, which, okay, that's a big name to bring back, right? You have a plan for him at WrestleMania, right? Apparently not. First he's going to work with Ziggler. They dropped that. Then he's going to work with the Shield. Shield beat him on Raw. I don't know why that happened. James is going to have to edit that together. But anyway, getting back to my point, yeah, Chris Jericho, he hasn't had a sustained direction ever since he's been back, and now he's just in the Intercontinental title feud. It's like, okay, is he going to face Barrett at Mania? Now there's this rumored card that he's going to work with Fandango at WrestleMania, which I'm thinking, where the hell did that come from? I mean, geez, if that was the plan, okay, fine, but I can tell you right now that wasn't the plan, that you're literally just coming up with shit on the fly.
Yeah, I mean, Fandango hasn't even wrestled a match yet. And on Monday, you know what, it looks like he was starting a feud with Tenzai and Clay over one of the fucking assholes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I don't know.
I mean, look, I don't think we're asking for anything major here. Just ask that if you're going to, do WrestleMania is always 4 hours. Give us a slight reason to care about the first 2 hours where those lower matches are going to happen, especially now that Yards is going to have money in the bank to throw on there and panel a bunch of guys into.
Exactly, yeah. Well, actually, look at WrestleMania last year. How much of that show, I looked at that card last year, I'm like, all right, Triple H and Undertaker will be really good, just because they'll design it that way. Rock and Cena, all right, they built that up for a year, and it is a big attraction match. All right, I can live with that. Punk and Jericho for the title, that's fine. I can live with that. That's great. I'm actually looking forward to that one. I thought the match was disappointing, but whatever the case, I mean, going into the show, I was interested in seeing it. Rest of the card, I didn't give a shit. Sheamus and Daniel Bryan, it was 18 seconds, and I'm like, well, fuck, that just means it was a shorter amount of time for me not to care. Kane and Randy Orton got randomly thrown together in a feud. I didn't give a shit. Teddy Long and Johnny Ace for control of Raw, and that whole, 6-on-6 match, whatever the fuck that was. Didn't care, because I don't care who's in charge of the show. So there was just a lot of that. It's like they put everything into the 3 big matches, and everything else just doesn't matter.
Exactly, and we're getting that again, and it's a problem.
No,
you know what?
Worse.
Yeah, and you know what? This has been something I've been screaming about for years, folks. Where there is no mid-card. Guys have no chance to move up or move into a new direction. they either falter forever on the lower levels of the card, guys like Primo and Epico, guys like Zack Ryder. Sadly, it looks like it's going to be guys like, Tyson Kidd, who I think has a lot of potential, before they get released. Or Trent Barretta, who I thought had a lot of potential, but they never did anything with. I mean, he was doing some good stuff in NXT. It's like, yeah, we could maybe figure something out with this guy, but we're just going to let him go. Or you're going to get hotshot right to the main event when you're not ready. Best example, Del Rio, Sheamus, Ryback.
Absolutely. And even, I keep going back to this, but look at the Shield. What's the Shield going to be doing at WrestleMania? That's what I meant when I say, they have no direction and there's no end game with them, because I'm looking at what they've got lined up for them at WrestleMania, and I'm just like, that's it? That's your big payoff to the Shield? I mean, it's so, the match that they're going with apparently is going to be Orton, Big Show, and Sheamus versus the Shield. Maybe Ryback instead of Show, or what? I don't know. Again, I don't know. It's really confusing. But that match is so uninspired. I'm just like, I hope the Shield goes over, because that'd be a pretty uneventful way to end it.
Man, I assure you, what's going to happen? Big Show's going to win that match single-handedly and pin all three of them at once.
That would be horrible.
That's why I think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And, apparently another match is going to be Ryback versus Mark Henry.
Which I would, I would accept that match as long as, A, they kept it short, because they just want to have Ryback do the shell shock to Henry. That's basically what they want to do. They're like, okay, fine, could you have at least planted this? Or instead of doing it at WrestleMania, why not build it up to SummerSlam? Just a thought, because I know Henry was hurt, and there wasn't a whole lot of room to really do that. It was like, all right, you can't have a long-term build-up there, so why not take it past WrestleMania and save it for SummerSlam? That's probably what they should have done with Del Rio and Swagger. Because Swagger, he comes back, and he goes from being a nothing to a number one contender, literally at the drop of a hat.
Yeah, literally the drop of the hat, and a pinfall in a cell. I mean, I agree with you. Man. From a storyline standpoint, it makes a hell of a lot more sense for Ryback to be in the Shield match, the six-man with the Shield, than Big Show, because Ryback's been one of the Shield's targets the entire time, and he's never gotten that big revenge moment on them.
And Big Show has had more heel and face turns than anybody in the history of professional wrestling. I swear to God. Name me another one that comes close.
Well, the only two I can think that would come close would probably be Lex Luger and Kurt Angle, and Kane.
Kane's pretty up there. Kurt Angle's up there too, but
Lex Luger.
Big Show, man, I mean, good Lord.
Well, I mean, I think Mick Foley said once he and someone on a train passed the time counting Big Show heel turns.
Does that go back to WCW too? Because he was in the NWO at least twice.
I guess it depends on how long the train ride, or a plane ride was.
That's great.
Train. Well, to be perfectly honest, if you actually counter all of Big Show's turns, you probably would have enough time to board a plane and then get off and get on a train.
Well, now I know what I'm going to do on my bus ride to WrestleMania this year. So, okay, I'll do that to pass the time.
You know what, Patrick? I don't know what your phone capability is, but I would love it if you started posting updates on the Epicenter Newsline, like, okay, I'm in, I'm not sure what route you're going to take, but I'm here, and I'm up to 36 Big Show turns.
Yeah. Oh, I'll probably do something.
Stop for lunch. 58 Big Show turns.
That's awesome.
Wait, yeah. At what point? Was Big Show a heel before or after? Before he joined ECW, or did he just turn heel when he won the title?
Lots of good questions.
By the way, that is just a way to kill off anybody. I mean, in general in wrestling, not having a general direction of what you want to do. I mean, I always joke you can set your watch by Kane's turns.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm sure they're going to try and rebook him as a monster again. That'll be coming.
Trust me, as soon as he and Daniel Bryan drop the tag belts, Kane's going to snap and we're going to hear, oh, man, he's never been like this before. He's a monster. Oh, my God, who's going to stop this guy?
Kane has never been more vicious than he is right now.
Yeah.
Even though I'm sure he set people on fire back in '98, but whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we're done for tonight. We're done. Or did you want to? You said that you wanted to say something about Fandango off the air.
Yeah. Well, I'll say it right now. I'm actually really liking that gimmick. It might be really stupid, but you know what? It's fun. I think one of the biggest problems in wrestling is we don't have enough fun. And personally, I'm having fun with Fandango. I like the way that he isn't going to get in the ring until someone says his name right. I even kind of get tell him he came a little bit when he's doing it, because it's like, no, it's Fandango. Oh, no, Fandango. Yeah,
you know what? It really reminds me of like old school superstars type of things where I remember when I was a kid for months, Papa Shango never wrestled a match. The lights would go out and he would cast a voodoo spell on whoever he was working with and the jobber would run away. And those would be Papa Shango matches for like 2 or 3 months. I'm not even making that up. That's seriously what happened. And,
probably better than Papa Shango's attempts to wrestle.
What'd you say?
I said, that's probably a lot better than any attempt that guy had to wrestle.
Oh, sure, absolutely. And
by the way,
Fandango, it's like they're building anticipation when he eventually does have a match. And I think,
right.
They're building heat on him. And some of the presentation stuff is nice. I'm not sure how the dance gimmick is going to work because I'm just sick of dance gimmicks. But I think the performer's really good. I like him. So,
Which really, I hope this finally works out for this guy. For people that don't know this is Johnny Curtis, who once upon a time won one of the seasons of NXT, and the plan was, when they started that season, the rookie will get a tag title shot with his pro. His pro was R-Truth, who turned heel a week after Curtis won NXT, and then was shot into the feud with John Cena. So there that went. Then last year they had him for months on end do weird backstage promos on SmackDown, but you think, okay, eventually he's going to wrestle. Nope. And now he's Fandango. So I hope this guy finally gets to wrestle on Raw or SmackDown at one point.
Yeah, let's hope so.
I think this guy might have actually set a record for a guy that's supposed to be a wrestler having appeared on Raw or SmackDown the most time without ever actually having a match. The furthest I think he's actually got. You know what? I think the furthest he's gotten to the ring is standing on the ramp.
Might be, yeah. Yeah. Interesting. So we'll have to see how the career of Johnny Curtis turns out from this point forward. But I think that's all we have for tonight. Again, hope you all enjoyed our discussions about TNA, WrestleMania, and other random crap that we cooked up in our brains. But thank you to James Walsh and Nick Knoll for being on the line with me here tonight. And thank you, everyone, for listening. And we will be back for more here at WrestlingEpicenter.com, so stay tuned. Ooh.